Three, two, one.
Here we go!
Hello guys and welcome back to the Sports Shift with me, Ian Marquez. All the Premier League teams have kicked off their FA Cup campaign, a few upsets here and there but typical results. But the Premier League is back, another interesting weekend of action ahead of us. Let's get started. So just briefly running through the fixtures before I give you my picks. We have Brentford at home to Man City. We have Chelsea at home to Bournemouth. We have West Ham hosting Fulham. Strong Nottingham Forest fighting for that Champions League spot. They are hosting league leaders Liverpool. We have Everton at home to rising Aston Villa. We have struggling Leicester at home to Crystal Palace, looking to get back to winning ways. The resurgent Newcastle at home to Wolves. Under the new manager bounce is over. They're trying to just string together some solid performances. Then we have the North London Derby. Arsenal recently getting kicked out of the FA Cup at the hands of 10 men Manchester United. They are at home to Spurs. Spurs were forced to go to extra time with Tamworth before they brought on the big guns and eventually won comfortably in extra time, but they had to expend a lot of energy that they wouldn't have wanted to considering they're preparing for the North London Derby. That should be pretty interesting. Arsenal had more injuries in midweek with the loss of Timber and Jesus. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see what team they can field, how they structure it, and just the dynamic between this team, because usually it's very gritty, but as we know, Arsenal haven't been scoring as much as they like. They are pretty strong at corners, and Spurs have been susceptible to set pieces. Spurs' attack is pretty lethal, even though the defense is weak, so it should be a very interesting matchup. Then on Thursday, we have Ipswich at home to Brighton, followed by Manchester United after the back of two very strong results at home to bottom of the table Southampton. Kyle Walker has just announced that he wanted to leave. Still unsure where things are going at City. They know they might be getting in another attacker in the coming days, but I have them drawing away to Brentford. Brentford have been really good at home. The likes of Mbeumo and Wissa have been excellent. That's such a great duo. Haddon has been back in the goals. Savinho is starting to get rewarded for his efforts, and it might say that Man City are back on track, but I'm not convinced yet. I need to see a little bit more, so I'm going to go for a draw. I think both teams will score. In the next game, I have Chelsea back to winning ways after that little skid of a couple of draws and defeats. I have them winning at home to Bournemouth. You know, Bournemouth can always turn up on their day, but you never know which Bournemouth you're going to get, and they aren't that clinical. They may score, but I think Chelsea will outscore them with their talent. Cole Palmer, Jadon Sancho have been looking great in recent weeks, and I think they just have too much quality for them. Then we head to East London. We have West Ham hosting Fulham. I think Fulham come out victorious in this one. West Ham have sacked Lopetegui, and Graham Potter is back at the helm of an England club. He will be managing West Ham for the foreseeable future, and let's see if he can implement his style of football. I know it's not the same players that he had at Brighton, so it'll be very interesting to how he uses the likes of Wan-Bissaka and whatnot. It's not a Stupinian that he had flying forward at Brighton, so it's going to be a little bit different, and it's interesting to see how he implements it. However, Fulham have been really strong. Jimenez is back in the goals. Then he has some hard-working players, the likes of Iwobi, Smith Rowe, Reece Nelson has looked really good recently, and I think they've started to get a little bit of consistency, which is all we've been asking for Fulham. So I think Fulham do come out victorious in that one. Follow that, we have Nottingham Forest at home to Liverpool. I think this is going to be a very tough game for Liverpool. It's not going to be, by no means is it going to be an easy walk in the park, but I do think they have enough quality that they'll come out victorious. Like some Mo Salah is inevitable. Don't be surprised if they get a penalty in this game. Trent, I think he'll be back in the starting lineup. He had a rough game against Man United and then was rested in midweek. I still think he has quality, especially going forward, and I think he will play a significant role in this game. Whether they keep a clean sheet is to be seen, because Nottingham Forest really strong on crosses. They're really direct. If they can get past Liverpool's early press, I think they can cause them problems. So it's going to be a really good game, but I do have Liverpool edging it. We then have Everton at home to Aston Villa. Everton deciding to part ways with Sean Dyche makes very little sense to me. I think he had them overachieving, and I don't think they'll be able to do any better than Sean Dyche had them. Their squad is not very good. He was making sure they were solid, and if they could score 1 or 2 goals, maybe they might win a game, draw a game. Their squad is very bad, so if you're stacking him because of the results, it's not going to get any better. Very interesting to see where that goes, but I think Everton will get worse before they get better. So I have Aston Villa to run route against Everton this week. We have Leicester at home to Crystal Palace. I mean, they have one of the weaker squads. They have the likes of Jamie Vardy, who's pure class, but is he going to get any service? I know he'll work hard for the team. I'm a fan of Ruud van Nistelrooy, a fan of what he's been doing with Leicester, but to keep them in the Premier League is a tough ask this season. And I do think they have goals in them, but their defense is very weak. So I'm going to say Crystal Palace edge it. Looks for the likes of Ismaila Sarr and Richard Eze to get in the goals. Then we have Newcastle. Resurgent Newcastle, who I think are destined for a Champions League spot. They are hosting Wolves, and Wolves looked a lot better under the new manager, but I still believe that they don't have the quality. They're susceptible to a goal and they're very inconsistent. Complete opposite to Newcastle, who have been very strong, very solid shape, very consistent. Isak has been immense. The likes of Gordon, Murphy on the wings. That midfield of Joelinton, Guimaraes, and Tonali, probably the best midfield in the Premier League right now. I don't see how you can bet against Newcastle, so I'm taking Newcastle to win this one. We have the North London derby then. I think both teams will score. Usually I'd pick Arsenal to edge it, but they've been so inconsistent recently, struggling to score goals from open play. If they have to rely on set pieces here, maybe they'll get one or two, but I think this game will draw and the points will be shared. Ipswich at home to Brighton. I'm going for Ipswich to upset Brighton and win at home. I think that Ipswich have a little bit of quality. They have Omari Hutchinson, they have Smollett, and I mean, Brighton have been a little disappointing recently. I know that they struggle defensively due to their play styles, but they haven't been creating as much as they typically do, which is a little concerning. João Pedro has been not getting the opportunities, not getting into those spaces, and aside from the penalty that he had recently, he hasn't had much chances at goal. I know he got a couple assists in FPL terms, but those were a little bit fortuitous, so I'm still not too convinced by Brighton right now. It's a good time to play them, and I think Ipswich will get the win. Once again, look for the late goal. I expect it to be 1-1 late and one team to score a winner. In that game, just turn on the last 5 minutes and it will be pure action. To wrap up this week, we have Manchester United at home to Southampton. Very impressive 2-2 draw against Liverpool. And then they had to play 12-man Arsenal in midweek. The ref had an absolute shocker. And Arsenal should have won that game in regular time, should have won it extra time. But it went to penalties. Altay Biandir was sensational. Probably could have got a little more on that clearance for Gabriel's goal, but can't fault him there. He had a great game. And particularly impressive considering his previous performance against Spurs was a little bit of a letdown. To have the confidence to come and perform the way he did was very impressive. I was against starting him, but he proved me wrong, and so you have to give him his props. Maguire, as that middle centre-back, has been flourishing in Amorim's system, and then the likes of Ugarte in front has just been so solid. He's been such a revelation. So happy that we have Ugarte in the Man United side, and hopefully they don't let this two good results drop and they continue this run of form, pick up a little momentum against Southampton. I don't want to see a cage win. I would like to see them obliterate them. No disrespect to Southampton, but they are probably the weakest side in Premier League, and I think Man United should run route. I want to see the likes of Bruno, Højlund, Ahmad all creating chances, being confident, running at defenders, and hopefully that's what we get. Just a couple stats before we make our betting picks. We have projected goals and clean sheet odds thanks to Rob TFBL. He puts up some really good stats, puts these nice graphics together, and feel free to check them out. These are always helpful. If you look at the odds, Arsenal, Newcastle, United, City, Chelsea, all projected to score over 2 goals. The next graph I'll show you the top goal scorers, so you can kind of combine those stats to make a precise decision on who's going to be the goal scorer. And if you look at clean sheet, you have the likes of Man United very high because Southampton have had a weak offense. But if you look at the inverse, you have the likes of Spurs, 8% chance of keeping a clean sheet, and Arsenal expected to score over 2 goals, so you like to think that Arsenal will score. If you're going to look for goal scorers, the lowest odds were players such as Havertz, maybe Martinelli. Brian Shaw is going to take penalties. Odegaard missed his in regular time. Havertz misses in the shootout, so who the penalty taker is without Saka, it could be Jorginho, it could be Martinelli, or Odegaard could just say, I'm taking it again, I don't care. It was his first miss in the senior game, so pretty harsh to take him off of penalties now. But for Arsenal to score, for Man United to score and potentially keep a clean sheet, they started the season really well, but it's kind of quieted down on the clean sheets. But then it's the typical solid defenses. Arsenal next. Even though they're playing Spurs, they have 36% chance to keep a clean sheet, which is pretty impressive. The likes of Newcastle, Liverpool, and after that, I'd say it's got a little riskier in terms of clean sheet odds. But if you look at the goal scorers below, Isaac and Haaland are currently favourites. Projected goals just under 1, well over 50%. If I had to bet, they're the safest bets. Isaac, currently 8 games in a row that he's scored, looking to break Vardy and Van Nistelrooy's record. Haaland always in the goals. Palmer surprisingly high for me, although like his play has been he's been a little bit out of the play recently, but he's still been chipping in with some goals, similar to how Salah performs. Also, Hoyland being so high is pretty surprising to me. Projected to have 0.65 XG is a little bit high. I actually think Xerxes might start this weekend, considering how much work Hoyland put in midweek. Then it's your typical performers such as Salah, Bruno, Havertz, Nicholas Jackson, who will just be getting quite a bit of chances. You would expect them to score. So going with this, I'm going to go with my prem picks. Well, I'm going to go with Salah and Isaac. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Both players scored last time out. They've been in sublime form. Salah was a little bit out of the game. He wasn't doing much, but they won a penalty. His hand was in the air. So Salah stepped up and buried it as usual. Sometimes he'll be a little bit quiet out of the game, but you can always count on him to step up and contribute. I can't remember the last time he didn't have a contribution, which is pretty insane. In terms of yellow cards, well, North London derby, I'm going to go for Pedro Porro. Probably playing up against Martinelli, although Martinelli can play centrally if needed. But he's very feisty. He's typically called out position because he likes to go so far forward. So I'm going to go with Pedro Porro for a yellow. Now we have Everton against Aston Villa. And I think I'm going to go for Idrissa Gueye. Aston Villa are so dynamic, especially on the counter. I think Gueye makes a cynical foul, takes one for the team, and I think he picks up a yellow card. In terms of the full-time result, I already told you Aston Villa against Everton. I think Everton are going to struggle in the next 2 game weeks. Newcastle playing Wolves. I mean, Wolves have a new manager, they look better, but I still think they're far away from good, so I'm going to go with Newcastle there. The Man United against bottom Southampton, I think is a pretty safe bet. I like to think that that's a high scoring, maybe 3 or 4-0, if I'm optimistic. In terms of the long shots, well, Hoyland or Xerxes, whoever starts United, I think they will be getting the goals. Maybe 1, maybe 2. So they're my long shot pick. They haven't been getting much chances, both of them. I know against Everton, Xerxes flourished, but that was a one-off. United haven't been creating as much as you would expect. They've been relying on individual brilliance, the likes of Garnacho or Ahmad running down and maybe creating chances off the wing. In terms of yellow cards, I'm going to go with João Gomes for Wolves. He's going to be playing against Guimaraes, Joelinton, and Tonali. They're also feisty in midfield. And then they have Gordon and Murphy on the wings. Isaac with his pace up front. So many avenues for a yellow card, especially in transition. You know, João Gomes loves a foul, so I don't think it's far-fetched to consider him for a yellow. In terms of the full-time result, I'm going to go with Liverpool. Nottingham Forest have been really good, so be careful with this one. But I trust Liverpool. I always trust Liverpool to get it done these days. Salah will find a way to contribute even if he has a quiet game. And although I think Forest will score, I think Liverpool win comfortably, like a 3-1. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy this weekend's games. See you guys later.